The city was alive with lights and noise, but inside the corner cafe, everything felt calm and warm. Amelia sat quietly by the window, stirring her coffee without drinking it. She wasn't here to enjoy the taste, she just needed somewhere safe, somewhere to disappear for a while. Her long brown hair framed her delicate face, but her eyes carried a sadness she couldn't hide. At the same time, across the street, the CEO of a multinational empire, Alexander Reed, was leaving a board meeting that had run late into the night. To the world, Alexander was untouchable, powerful, commanding, and never distracted. But tonight, he felt strangely restless, as though something was missing. His driver suggested taking him straight home, but Alexander refused. Instead, he dismissed the car and decided to walk. That's when he noticed her. Through the cafe window, her silhouette caught his attention. Something about the way she stared at her untouched coffee, lost in thought, drew him closer. He wasn't the type of man to enter random coffee shops, but tonight, he did. The door chimed softly as he stepped in. Amelia glanced up briefly, then quickly looked away. She didn't know who he was. To her, he was just a stranger in a perfectly tailored suit. But Alexander knew he had never felt such a pull towards someone before. He ordered a black coffee and, without asking, sat at the table beside her. For several minutes, silence lingered between them. He watched her fingers tremble slightly as she held her spoon. She seemed nervous, fragile. Finally, he said, "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." She blinked, startled by his words, but something in his voice made her feel safe enough to respond. "And you look like you're used to controlling it," she murmured back, surprising herself with her boldness. A small smile touched his lips. "Maybe that's true. But tonight, I'd rather listen than control." It was the first time Amelia had laughed all week, a soft laugh that broke the ice between them. They talked. Slowly at first, then freely. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. She told him she was a teacher struggling with debts, that she had recently been betrayed by someone she trusted. He shared little about himself, only that he was tired of the empty world he lived in, surrounded by people who only wanted his wealth. When the cafe announced it was closing, neither of them wanted the night to end. Outside, the streets glowed with neon lights and the cool night air. Amelia hesitated when Alexander suggested walking her home, but his sincerity disarmed her. They walked side by side through the city, speaking of everything and nothing. At her apartment door, silence fell again. Amelia lowered her eyes, ready to say goodnight. But Alexander wasn't ready to leave. Something inside him burned with the fear that if he walked away now, he might never see her again. "One night," he said softly. "Stay with me. Just one night. No promises, no expectations." Her breath caught. She should have said no. She barely knew him. But his eyes weren't cold or demanding, they were pleading, as though he needed her as much as she needed someone to hold on to. Against all logic, Amelia nodded. That night, in his penthouse high above the glittering city, their worlds collided. It wasn't about wealth, or power, or loneliness anymore. It was about the way his touch made her feel alive again, the way her laughter melted something frozen inside him. They stayed awake until dawn, wrapped in each other's arms, sharing secrets they had never spoken aloud. For Amelia, it was supposed to be just a fleeting escape. For Alexander, it was supposed to be nothing more than a distraction. But when the morning sun poured into the room, reality shifted. She slipped out quietly, leaving him asleep, believing their night together had been a beautiful mistake. But for Alexander, it wasn't something he could forget. In the following days, he tried to return to his life. Meetings, boardrooms, negotiations, the world demanded his attention, but his mind wandered back to her every moment. He could still hear her laugh, still see the sadness in her eyes, still feel the warmth of her presence. He told himself it was just infatuation, a temporary madness. But as weeks passed, the emptiness grew unbearable. He searched for her. He didn't even know her last name, only that she was a teacher somewhere in the city. For a man who could buy anything, it frustrated him that finding her proved so difficult. Yet he couldn't stop. Nights were the worst, when he lay awake in his penthouse, haunted by the memory of her touch and the way she had whispered his name as though she truly saw him. Not the CEO, not the billionaire, but the man inside. Meanwhile, Amelia tried to convince herself it was best to forget. That night had been an escape, not a beginning. She feared his world was too different, too dangerous for someone like her. But no matter how she tried, she couldn't shake the memory of his arms around her, the gentleness she never expected from a man so powerful. Their reunion came unexpectedly. Amelia was helping students at a charity event hosted downtown. She hadn't known the sponsor was his company until she saw him walk in, commanding the room with his presence. Her heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she considered running, but then his eyes found hers. The crowd disappeared. Time stood still. Alexander crossed the room in seconds, ignoring the whispers around him. When he stood before her, the CEO mask was gone. It was just him, the man who had held her that night, the man who hadn't stopped thinking about her. "You left," he said, his voice low, almost breaking. "But I can't forget you. I've tried, and I can't." Amelia swallowed hard, her heart racing. "It was supposed to be just one night. It will never be just one night for me," he whispered. And in that moment, surrounded by a crowd that no longer mattered, Amelia realized the truth. Neither of them could go back to who they were before that night. One night had changed everything, and now, it was only the beginning.